I live in South Korea, and the Omicron variant has caused a lot of concern here, as it has everywhere. Now, South Korea has done a good job at handling the pandemic so far, but recently numbers have really started to climb, and people are worried here. Now, to give you a bit of a background, with the Omicron variant, one accusation that's being made by WHO scientists and some journalists covering this story is that a real reason for the emergence of this variant is because of the greed of developed nations who sort of hoarded vaccines and prevented poorer countries from getting their fair share of vaccines. South Korea, on the other hand, is sort of in the middle. It is definitely not a poor country. It's a very industrialized country. However, it was also a bit slow to get vaccines. That did not have anything to do with the wealth of Korea, and it had more to do with the Korean government simply hesitating and not acting quickly to reserve vaccines. Now, that sort of wrinkle is one that is important to keep in mind, because it helps sort of, I think, elucidate another issue which I think is a very important one, and I'll get to in just a minute. In the case of South Africa, where the Omicron variant seems to have emerged, again, the problem is not one of sort of the relative wealth of a nation, because according to reliable sources, South Africa has plenty of vaccines. When one looks at the statistics of full vaccinations, the percentages for a fair number of European and North American countries are pretty good. Not necessarily that great. For example, in Canada, the vaccination rate is just under 80%. In the United States, it's lower than that. In Mexico, it's a mere 50%. Mexico, economically, is part of the NAFTA triad of nations. It's not a poor country. Cuba, a much poorer country by comparison, has a vaccination rate of 80%. Cambodia, which is nobody's idea of a rich country, has a vaccination rate of around 79%. South Africa, on the other hand, has a vaccination rate of around 23-24%. Not good. South Korea, after a slow start, managed to get its vaccination rate up to, it's close to around 79% right now. The wealth of a nation, the GDP of a nation, is not the only determining factor which really helps explain why it is that some countries vaccinate more quickly than others. And obviously there are issues with organization and with vaccine hesitancy. Therefore, for example, rather frustratingly low numbers for the United States, despite its magnificent wealth and its real determination at the executive federal level to get the whole country vaccinated. I think this whole accusation that the Omicron variant is really a result of poor distribution of vaccines and the result of hoarding and greed on the part of rich nations is going to be a bit of a rabbit hole, and I'm not sure it's really going to sort of provide a fully satisfying answer to why we are having problems such as the emergence of these frightening new variants. I think a much more logical approach to take would be to look at the way, for example, these variants spread. And the answer there is quite simple. They spread by airlines, first and foremost. The airlines have really played a significant role in systematically spreading new variants. We've seen this with the Delta variant and other previous variants. We are not controlling the airlines enough, and we're not focusing on that factor enough as a vector of transmission. And that is an area where we've really got to change focus.